The American politics, let's now shift our attention to what is happening in Thailand, where in a show of mass defiance to abandon demonstrations. This is what the Thai people did. Tens of thousands of Thai protesters cheered and chanted into the night in central Bangkok on Thursday. The Thailand's Prime Minister, who is now extremely unpopular, Prayut Chan-o-cha, has said that he is not resigning and that the ban on demonstrations under the emergency clauses will last for at least another 30 days. A day after a ban was designed to end more than the 3 months-long anti-government demonstrations, thousands of protesters, of course, regrouped in Bangkok to protest both against the royalty, the king, that they say his powers need to be curtailed further, and also the incumbent Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, who the protesters expect demand that he should resign for his non-performance. And the protesters have also pledged to return to the same place every day, even as they were dispersed. Now, ignoring police appeals to disperse the anti-royalty group spilled across one of Bangkok's busiest commercial districts, even when the deputy head of the Bangkok police warned that all protesters will be prosecuted. Now, the police has put the number of protesters at about well over 10,000. Now, Thailand imposed a state of emergency in an effort to end 3 months of protests calling for reforms to the monarchy. Now, the emergency bans gatherings of 5 or more people, and authorities have been allowed to prohibit people from entering into these designated locations, where even in Thailand, the government says that the government will now dictate the venues where protests can be held. Now, the protesters are now demanding for constitutional reforms. They are demanding for the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha for his non-performance during the COVID-19 pandemic. They're also demanding for the reduction of the powers of the king, who spends a lot of his time outside of the country. Remember, Thailand is a constitutional monarchy. A series of demonstrations over the course of the last 3 months have brought tens of thousands of people onto the streets of Bangkok. The Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has said that he was not resigning and that the ban on demonstrations under the emergency measures will last for the next 30 days. The democracy movement has become the greatest challenge in several years to Thailand's ruling establishment. Since the movement started in July, dozens of anti-government activists have been arrested. They've been charged with sedition. This is what governments around the world do when people rise up in protests, and some have been released on bail. In fact, the protesters had installed a plaque which said that Thailand belongs to the people and not the king. And we earlier spoke with Phil Robertson, who is the Deputy Director, Asia Division of the Human Rights Watch. He had joined us live from Bangkok, listening to what he had to say about the situation that is unfolding in the country there.
The authorities are continuing to keep the door closed to any sort of serious dialogue with the youth about their demands. There was a bit of a game talking about creating a committee at the parliament to look at the Constitution. But then the conservative senators who are unelected and are entirely appointed by the government shut the door on that. The demand by the protesters for the resignation of the prime minister, for the revision of the Constitution, and for an end to the persecution of people exercising their civil and political rights peacefully. These are major demands that the government should be listening to. But instead, they have circled the wagons, really, and have decided that they're not going to negotiate substantively here. And now we're seeing online censorship growing. So, for instance, the change.org application has now been banned by the Thai authorities in Thailand. And there's rumors that there's going to be more action against Facebook and other social media giants because of people using social media to express views about the government and the monarchy that the prime minister and his government don't like.